It would have ended a significant relationship if it hadn't happened that way. So I know that I personally was not calling upon my guardian angel, and yet this intervention took place. So, what does Theo say about that? I mean, was I actually asking for it and didn't realize it, or does it always have to be, a verbal request?
No, it doesn't have to be. Our guardian angels basically are told by our souls that they're not to assist us unless we ask assistance, or it's on our soul contract that we're supposed to live than whatever danger we're in. And so the guardian angel knows this is going to come up before you're ever born, okay? And so the guardian, it's not like, oh, what do I do now kind of thing. The guardian angel has it all planned out, how you're going to be saved from that bullet getting too close to your ear or whatever. And it can be someone pushing you out of the way, or it could be even the guardian angel manifesting physically at that point in time, or it could be the guardian angel moving the sights on that gun just slightly, even though the person doesn't know it, so that it fires off to the side. I mean, there's so many things that can happen in any one instance. In my first book, in the first chapter, a friend of mine that runs a video company up in Canada, when I told him I was writing the book, he said, "Oh, I've got all these stories, Tom. I got to tell you all these stories." One of the stories, he was skiing, and he was skiing. I think it was like late in the year or whatever, and he was skiing along in like off track, and suddenly he falls, and when he fell, it was 3 feet from a cliff. And had he gone off, it was like a 500-foot drop or something. He would have been killed. So things happen. And another time, he and his parents were coming over, immigrating to Canada from Sicily, and he was, 7 years old or something, and he almost gets washed off the deck of the ship during a storm, and suddenly this guy grabs him and brings him inside. So, there are things that happen because it wasn't his time to go.
Well, I won't go into my story, but I will tell you Churchill was right when he said there's nothing more exhilarating than being shot at and missed. So
I'm sure. And on the other side, keep in mind that your guardian angel, if you're supposed to die in a car wreck, or as an example, I was in the early stages of World War II. I was a young 5 or so year old Jewish girl with my parents, and we were killed by a German soldier. And in a past life, I had killed that German soldier when he was a child. So it was a balancing act.
Payback.
All right, but my guardian angel made sure that I was at the right place at the right time to be shot. And he said, Theo says, this may sound callous to you, but we work on your soul contract. And if it says that you're supposed to die in a car wreck or are supposed to get shot or whatever, then we make sure that you're there to go that way.
I'm sorry that, excuse me for the reaction, but the idea that our guardian angels are under contract, that's but I mean they're not under contract. They simply help us on our soul contracts. And keep in mind, our soul contracts are what we decided before we were ever born. And these soul contracts are the most amount of learning, the most amount of successes, the most amount of challenges in a life, and that's what our soul contract is. And some people say, "Oh, I don't want to follow my soul contract." Well, you don't have to, but your soul contract was what you said was going to be the best possible life that you could possibly have before you were born. And we're veiled from knowing what those soul contracts are, So by requesting benevolent outcomes, it keeps you on your soul contract. That's another major reason to request benevolent outcomes, is that it will keep you on the straight and narrow path, so to speak, and it won't allow you to jump off the reservation, as we say.
Between lives, did we get to see what we've done in the past or the future? And
sure.
During our lives, of course, we have no way of knowing if we've been here before or where we're going. So do we at least get to peek at that between lives?
Absolutely. You can spend as much time. Keep in mind, because time is an illusion, some people don't understand. I've gotten an email recently from a lady who was saying that she was having dreams about a life in which was in another location, but it was happening almost at the same time this one was, and she was a completely different person. And I checked with Theo on it, and in one life she had died in order to have another life, and it was all going on at the same time. So it doesn't matter where you end up. You can have two lives going on at the same time because they're all happening at the same time.
Again, more questions than I can even express here. Obviously, we can change genders between lives, according to what you're saying. So,
sure.
In the end, when we finish come to the end of all of these lives, are we genderless at the end? And what happens once we have finally gone through all these numbers of lives and reached this vibrational state that we're all hoping to achieve?
Well, okay. First of all, by the time we get through with the Earth lives, we'll probably be going back to our home planets and use the what we learned in all these Earth lives on our home planets. As an example, my next life after this one will be back on that home planet, which is that water planet in the Sirius B Star System, where Antura is, and I'm going to go back and incarnate as a religious leader, as I have for thousands of lives. I'll be going back and doing basically the same thing I've done in thousands of other lives on that planet. So then after that life, my next life on Earth will be as a female space pilot, piloting one of 17 Earth starships with a crew of about 410 or 20 people, and there'll be 17 of them at that time in the 3400 era. And the next life after that, I'll go back to around 2600 and have a life farther back in order to help prepare people for that 3400 era, because there will be so many things that will have to be done in preparation for those Earthships, those starships, to go out and explore the universe.
Well, all right.
How about that?
Well, pardon the pun, but somehow or another, you're being a female space cadet first, kind of ran through my mind there when you were saying you're going to be a pilot on the ship. So
yeah, and my name will be Stephanie.
First,
I just found that out the other day. How about that? And I asked about names. I said, Stephanie. Now that's a very common name, even in today's world. And I said, are names going to kind of remain the same, even 1,400 or so years from now? And he said, yes, that common names will remain the same, although the different races' common names will be spread around. So in other words, maybe let's just say a Japanese common name or a Korean common name will be used at that time period, but all the common names that are being used, the Tom, Dick, and Harrys and Janes and Sues and all, will all still be around. I think that's kind of interesting.
Interesting indeed. I've got quite a few questions about 2012, and particularly a lot of questions about how you graduated more or less from conversations with your guardian angel Theo to Antura, and folks want to know about the Pleiadians and their contact and the Federation and so forth. I think we'll save that, though, for after the break for that discussion. But maybe you could prepare us a little bit by telling us what do you think 2012 will be like? Is this going to be some conscious raising event that will take place, or is it just going to
okay,
pass?
First of all, between now and then, we're going to have a lot of Earth events, and these will be localized events. As an example, Japan is supposed to quake really major again within 6 months. Puerto Rico is going to have a major quake in a little over 6 months, I've been told. So in other words, there's going to be a lot of Earth activity. Even Yellowstone may erupt in the next year and a half or so. I haven't gotten a really good date on that. So there are going to be some major kind of things happening, earthquakes on the West Coast and so on, and around the world. So there's going to be Earth events coming up. Now, when we get to that time frame of that December the 21st, 2012, when people wake up the next day, they really won't notice much of a change, okay? Because we already have sort of 1 foot in the fifth focus or the fifth dimension, and we're already starting to get a little bit of that. So you won't notice a change very fast, but you'll be able to look back and you'll see how your life changed after that time by how easy it will start getting after that. Okay?
Well, let's leave it there and go for a break. And you can see more about Tom and his books on www.thegentlewaybook.com. And we'll be right back and pick up our discussion with Tom's discussions with his brother from another planet, and we'll find out how you make that transition from talking to your guardian angel. So we'll be right back. Hello, everyone. In case you're just joining us, I'm Ken Cherry, your host for EPIC Voyages. Our guest this evening is Mr. Tom T. Moore. Tom, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Hello, everyone out there.
Yeah. We were just getting to the good part here. Everybody wants to know about the Pleiadians, the contact that's going to take place, and Antura. This future contact that's going to occur just in the very near future. If you could just tell us more about that. I know that's what everyone wants to hear.
Sure. Okay, this is what I've been told. It's not, some people think, there's going to be disclosure. Some people are saying June 21st. No. There's going to be a disclosure by a European country, the way I understand it, that's going to happen in the next couple of 3 years. And they are going to disclose all of what's been happening and their contacts with ETs. And that's going to cause a tumultuous discourse. But that's going to set up first contact by the Pleiadians. And are supposed to be coming at 2015. They will probably land in that European country that first opened the doors. And I'd asked Antura, well, why wouldn't they come to the United States? And he said that people in the United States would be much more fearful. They'd think it was another invasion in L.A., and they'd be outdoors with their shotguns and rifles, and they'd be frightened to death. So it's going to start in Europe, and they're going to slowly work their way around the world, so by the time they get to the United States, everyone will be okay. People will still, it's still going to be very tumultuous because
suddenly these religions that say that humans are, we're the only ones in the universe, and we've only been around for 6,000 years or whatever it happens to be, it's going to be, very hard for them to accept this, but they'll have to. Then, about 2 years after that, Antura is coming, and Antura, when he first started talking to me, he was introduced to me by Theo. And he told me that there was this being on another planet that was tuning into us, that was part of my soul cluster. And in each soul cluster are 6 to 12 fragments of our souls. And so here was, part of a guy, part of my soul cluster, and he was tuning in. And I'm thinking, I'm having a private conversation with my guardian angel, my GA, as I call him. And lo and behold, it's a party line. But Theo said, "Do you want to speak to him now?" And I said, "No, let me come up with some questions." And so a few days later, I came up with a whole set of questions, and I started asking him things, and thinking that he was going to be looking exactly like us, because I had been told that the first contacts were all going to like us. And suddenly I find out he's an amphibious being that lives on a water plant and swims down to over a half mile in depth to his city, and I'm saying, wow, you are different, aren't you? And if anyone has seen the Hellboy 1 and 2 movies, there's a character in the movie called Abe Sapien. And if you'll Google Abe Sapien photos on Google, you'll see what I'm talking about. But he says he's much more beautiful than Abe Sapien and skin colors and everything. So
no ego there. None.
he thinks he's a lot better looking than Abe Sapien.
Well, my first question from an email is the water on this freshwater or saltwater planet?
I've been told that the water is a little thicker than our water, and it's made up a little differently than our water is. And I don't know, since I don't have a scientific background, I can't tell you, except that Antura has told me they are not oxygen breathers. It's more, I think, nitrogen or something or other. I don't know. And and of course in the water they're breathing through their gills. So whatever it is in the water, they're not breathing oxygen. Okay, they're not taking it out.
So how is this water breather going to travel here? I mean, what is it? Just a ship full of water, or to be facetious? But...
And that's what you would think starting off. But in actuality, keep in mind that this water planet is part of 200 other planets that joined together after the Star Wars to become, the official name is the Galactic Federation of Planets, but in everyday conversation they call it either the Federation of Planets or the Federation. And so they're all in the same quadrant of the Milky Way galaxy. And so he's coming in this big oval mothership that's a mile long, and he's coming not only, he won't be the only water being probably, but there's going to be at least 10 species of humanoids on that mothership, plus bird species, insect species, and he said even a couple of reptilians who like to stay by themselves or, keep to themselves. So there's going to be a wide variety, and they have living quarters on that mothership that can take care of all the different kinds of breathing atmospheres that the people need. And for Antura, they even have a tank that he's able to do his meditations in. So they have a water tank on board for him to do these meditations, whatever that is.
I got to ask you this because I want to know. I want to be at your house when they show up, and isn't he your brother from another planet? Are they going to park over your place, or have they said where they're going to where he's going to visit?
Okay. Well, keep in mind it's 6 years between now and the time he's supposed to arrive. Right now, he has told me that the way they do these first contacts, they have it all set up. They've done this thousands of times before, and I asked him, well, give me an example of the last planet that you did a first contact on. And he said it was a desert planet. He said, desert planets are not my cup of tea, because he's a water being. But they went to this desert planet where the life on it was at a very early stage of development, but they could tell from all these intricate instruments they've developed over millions of years that this society on this planet are going to develop into very intelligent beings and so on. And these beings are sloths, he said, or they have the appearance of sloths, and they burrow in the sand. And they actually are able to have holographic images that they're able to project that look and feel like a sloth, and they made it look like an older, wise sloth, and it basically made the first contact and said, we're going to be with you, and they'll come back every, 500 years or whatever to check on them and slowly work it up. And Antura says they've been around with us for over a couple of million years, but, it's just been kind of wiped out in the last 50 years. So this is the kind of first contact they do. He says they've been studying us more than any other planet they have ever made first contact on. And they know everything about us. And so his job is going to be to have first contacts on a grassroots level. And he says it's going to be with me, with another member of our soul cluster who's having a life on the French Riviera, and another person in Asia. Now I've said, well, would it be possible to have a group? And he says that's not decided whether they'll be able to do that. And I think that's because it's so fluid as to how we're progressing. It will depend on, what's going to happen if I put a group together and suddenly 10 different kinds of humanoids walk off a ship, or even 5, these very, very different looking beings, probably different than anything that was portrayed in the Star Wars movies in that cafe and whatever that name of that desert planet was.
Right.
So that's, they don't want to terrify us. They want to have this gradual, get to know us kind of deal, and that's the very least that's going to happen is that they're going to take me back to the mothership, and I'm going to get to hopefully meet a bunch of different people.
Well, from my experience, the people are ready for disclosure. I think the government and whoever's in charge of maintaining these secrets has misjudged people's willingness to believe in extraterrestrial life, and they're ready for the truth. My concern is how will governments react? Well, have you received any information about how they might react? I mean, could they become oppressive to try to maintain order? After all, that means that they don't really control the skies, and it will attack a lot of people's religious beliefs. So,
right, but it's also going to bring fear to people, and that's why these people have to get over that they're very kind and gentle people. They're not going to attack us. If they wanted to attack us, they could have done it, 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago or whatever. And these are our cousins and aunts and uncles, because these Pleiadians are going to look exactly like us. Why do they look exactly like us? Because they gave us a bunch of their DNA when we were created for this Earth experiment.
Well, going back to our creation, how do souls begin? That's one of our questions.
How do what?
how do our souls begin? I mean, if we're on this journey of discovery and raising our vibrational level, we had to have a beginning.
Yes.
What is the source
all of
for our souls?
Were mostly created by other creators. Okay, and for people, this may be a big surprise to some people, but there are billions of other creations out there. And Theo has told me that, and Antura too, because Antura has actually been to one or two other universes, and just to see. And he says, you think this universe is different. He said you should really see some of these other universes.
So, do I take it from your comment there that there is more than one creator?
Yes, there are billions of creators. Some creators have created creations that are smaller than the head of a pin, and other creators have created universes more complex than ours. Okay? But this creator of our universe is creating has created a creation with a wide variety. Number one, and then number two, he created this Earth experiment where we have been the only beings in all of these billions of creations that have been able to work with negative energy, and we have conquered it, even though it may not look like it, to us today. We passed the hump during the harmonic convergence in 1987, whatever it was, and after that, now we're going to go into the fifth dimension. Eventually, our souls will meld together. This is the goal of our souls. Will meld together, and we will take over running the verse for the Creator and allow it to go to a higher level.
I think you may have just answered a question. We've entered into the chat session, Tom, so we are taking questions from our visitors to our program, and so if we could just sort of answer some of these. We have quite a few. And I think you may have answered this one earlier in the program. How did your source appear to you initially?
It does no physical appearance whatsoever. I just simply receive thought packets.
I see. And we discuss how souls begin, and the revelation to that is that there are billions of creators who have created many other universes, and we're just one of them. So